The speaker I have the privilege to introduce is a podcast expert and host of the inspiring podcast, Chatting with the Experts. And she is known for sharing the stories of entrepreneurs, particularly immigrant women who are making an impact in their industry. She has over 10 years of experience as an entrepreneur and digital strategist, helping small businesses and professionals leverage podcasting and digital strategies to amplify their brands and connect with their ideal audience. This speaker's passion for podcasting has made her a sought after international speaker where she shares insights on using podcasting to build authority, increase visibility, and foster meaningful connections. And so, once again, she's also the founder of Chatting with the Experts, a podcast that provides a platform for women to share their entrepreneurial journeys, challenges, and successes, and creating a supportive and inspiring community. Please help me welcome Paula Okonneh. Welcome, Paula.
Woohoo! Hi, everyone. And
Hi.
thank you so much, Antoria, for inviting me to be part of Social Media Saturdays. I am honored to be here.
Yes, and I usually like to start off our sessions and in telling everyone who have had the opportunity to meet our guests. And so our story goes back, I think, Paula, probably a couple years now, probably 2 to 3 years. And I remember my partner that I work with, Suzanne Hart, out of Canada. I remember getting a phone call from her, and she was just like, "Oh my God, I just met the most amazing woman. I did an interview with her on her podcast. You absolutely have to meet her." And then she mentioned your name, Paula Okonneh. And of course, what did I do? I went ahead and I looked you up on social media and I said, wow, this lady has been, she's like the real deal. I have to get to know her. And so throughout our journey, you have had the opportunity to participate in some of our programs, Unleash the Power of Your Story, where we had the opportunity to get the backstory behind of chatting with the experts. Okay. And so since then, I've been, supporting and following your journey. I've been on your podcast a couple of times, and I do believe this is the second or the third time you're on Social Media Saturdays with me. So it's always a pleasure, Paula, to have you on.
Thank you so much. And yes, I did connect with you through Suzanne, who was such an amazing guest. I got off my recording with her and said to I think it was some of my young adults that live with me that, my gosh, I had such an amazing experience speaking with this woman whose background is, she's originally from Trinidad, lives in Canada and is doing such amazing things. And then I said to them, that's why I do what I do, because it opens up my eyes to the world, to meet women who are impacting the world in ways that are, beyond my imagination, and which I would never have had the opportunity to do if I wasn't doing what I do. And now that I do Chatting with the Experts podcast and TV show, I have opened it up so that I have niched it in a way. So I speak mainly with women, and I have to say men as well. I have men joining our shows, and the purpose and my mission is to inspire, educate, and empower women globally so that at the end of the show, after they've listened to my experts, any woman, whether they're local for me meaning in the United States or in other parts of the world, they go away saying, I have learned something new.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely, definitely. And I know I said that in every session that I've had the opportunity to sit down with you, like I learned something new. And so I'll just go ahead, Paula, and share with our guests today that part of the idea of me doing Social Media Saturdays in this format actually came from you. So I remember you reached out to me a couple months ago and it says, hey, I'm doing Chatting with the Experts. Are you able to get on? And I'm just going to give the backstory. So I frantically went ahead, put on my makeup, fluffed my hair up a little bit I have, and thinking that we were going to be doing a live stream. And then when I got on, I realized that, oh my God, Paula is actually doing her episode on Zoom. And I'm going to tell you, the biggest thing I took away from that was the energy inside of the room. And immediately I saw like a better way that I could create connectivity with what I'm doing here on social media Saturdays. So I can't sit here and say and let everyone know that I came up with the idea to switch my format from doing a live stream to doing a Zoom all in my little brilliant mind. No, it came from me paying attention and gleaning from how you do your podcast episodes as well. So I thought absolutely that was absolutely brilliant. So thank you for that. Okay.
Oh, thank you. But in true transparency, I have to say I am a TV show host on a network, a women's network called Win-Win Women's Network. And they introduced me to that format whereby, yes, we do a live stream. And after the live stream, we switch off the cameras and then we speak with people who have joined the live stream. They are the ones who said, use your guest to speak with the women and the men who have joined, so that it's a one-on-one. So they haven't just learned from the questions I asked the guest or my interviewee, but they can now speak to that guest and ask them questions, not through email, not that I'm saying and taking away anything from email, but now this is a one-on-one conversation in a safe space, in the privacy of with the cameras off in like a breakout room, speaking to the guests and having answers, that you may not have had the opportunity to do. So I don't take the credit for that. That format came from Win-Win Women's TV. The only thing I take credit for is the people who say yes to coming onto my show and who now give me the opportunity to speak with them so that they in terms can share with the audience, the live audience, and with the rest of the world through their expertise and their knowledge.
Yeah, awesome. I love it. Love it. So let's start off by asking, what inspired you to start chatting with the experts?
Oh, thank you for that question. I'll try and make it as brief as possible. So for a lot of you may not know it, but public speaking and being in front of the camera were two of the things I was most afraid of. I would say to people, I'd rather jump off a plane than, do public speaking or do a video. But what changed that? So I had a small business doing web design and development, and it looked like after a while, I say everybody with their mama and papa was doing web design and development. And I was like, I need a change. So I'm a praying woman and I prayed and I was like, Lord, show me what to do differently. Now I had XM radio in my car and I'd spent hours driving because I'd be networking. And in those days, virtual networking like we do now was not the in thing. You went in person to network. So in going from point A to point B, I was listening to XM radio and a radio show host talking about iTunes with their interviewee. Sorry? Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead, Paula.
Yeah, I kind of switched out because I was like, iTunes? Now, when I talk about iTunes, this is in 2012. I'm like, my children ask me for iTunes cards all the time. I'm not even going to pay attention to this. But the more I listened, I heard them talking about an aspect of iTunes that most people didn't know about, and that was the podcast and the marketing side. And the interviewee said, this is something that Apple does not monetize. They do not publicize, but it's a great tool for advertising, a great tool for meeting people. And that was my aha moment. I was like, this is what I want to do. I want to speak with business owners, whether they're local, regional, national, or international, and find out about the person behind the business so that when people see them or when they see their business, they will know that there's someone, a person or persons behind the business. And then they in turn can learn from the person the guest, about how to improve their own business. And that is what inspired me to start Chatting with the Experts podcast. 2012, hardly anyone knew about it. And I went to the network meeting and I mentioned that I was doing that and it would be a marketing tool and who would like to be on my show. And some brave people said yes. What they didn't know was that I didn't even know what I was doing. But the rest is history. And once I started doing the podcasting, it helped me get over my fear of public speaking, because in a way, I had to speak in public, though, of course, being audio, not in front of a camera, to many different people. And that's what inspired me to start chatting with the experts.
Wow. You know, it's so amazing. Paula, when I listen to you, every time you tell that story, I see our similarities. So for those of you who don't know me personally, I too deathly afraid of public speaking. Okay. And I remember doing the live stream was the way that I conquered my fear, in public speaking, just by doing social media Saturdays. And so I always smile when I meet other people who talk about the journey of public speaking, and getting in front of people, and knowing that if there's a skill, which speaking is a skill that you would like to develop, things like having a podcast, things like doing a live stream is an easy way for you to put your foot in the door, while you're on your way to larger stages. That's what I like to think about it. Okay. So yeah, I really do appreciate you shared that you are a woman of God and you listened, okay, when he says this is what you should be doing. So for those of us who are on here, what are some of the important steps that someone should take if they are deciding to start their podcast?
So the first thing I would say is start. Don't procrastinate. I procrastinated. I told you I heard about this in 2012. I asked some brave people to become guests, and I did the recordings. Of course, I didn't know. I was Googling, how do you do this? And I had like 6 recordings, because the person who I was learning from, now in retrospect, I realized that they too were learning. They said, build up a repository. So I built up this repository of people who were on my show, but I was afraid to start it. So I would say, just start. Then the other thing I would say is start small, in the sense that you don't have to have, like, for me, I had like 10 people lined up. You don't have to have all these many people lined up to be on your show. Just start small and, practice. Practice makes perfect. We heard that. So start with a smartphone these days. There's a lot of apps on it. Record yourself, or even with your camera on your smartphone. Record yourself speaking. Just speak into it. And the more you speak about something, the more comfortable you become with it. I also say focus on conversations, not speeches, because when you focus on a conversation, as you're speaking into whether the audio recording or the video, you realize that you're passionate about something. So when you're starting your podcast, think about a conversation you're going to have with the person, one-on-one, like how Toria and I are speaking now. It's a conversation. I'm speaking to all of you. But if you think about, oh my gosh, it's got to be a speech, it's overwhelming. And so that may keep you from even starting. I will also say, when you do think about the conversation, script your key points. So have bulleted points like, okay, I'm going to do an introduction and then the main topic. And that's if you're deciding to do like interview style podcast. So just, have your key points scripted. You don't have to have the whole episode written out word for word or what you're going to say, because you're going to get lost and get confused or confuse your audience in the case where you may be a solo podcaster. Another thing I will leave you with is leverage your strength. We all know what our strengths are. So there are 3 formats of podcasts. There's the solo podcast, there's the interview style, which most people do, and then there's the panel style. Which one are you good at? Are you better as being the subject expert, or do you do better with interviewing people? Or do you like having a panel where experts come together and then you moderate? Know what your strengths are. And in knowing what your strengths are, it'll also encourage you as to what type of podcast, not just what type of podcast you want to have, but the subject matter that you would like to speak on if you're a solo podcaster, or if you're interviewing, the type of people that you want to speak with. And the same thing goes for the panel. So think about those things. And I say, just start.
I love that, Paula, because I'll tell you the key thing that I heard. So, and you said it in the beginning. So many times people say when you're starting a podcast, you have to build up a reservoir of episodes. Like if you have 10 episodes, like do 10 episodes before you actually launch them on your podcast platform. Okay. You know what I heard that you said? That doesn't do anything for the person who has trouble releasing. And I know sometimes releasing is my struggle, where I would have something and the longer I have it in my possession, I'm going back and I'm listening to it. And then I'm finding, oh, this was wrong. And the audio didn't sound quite right. And the video was, and oh my gosh, I had too many arms in here. And why was this like, oh, and I can't believe I answered that question or I said this thing. And the long story short is that the episodes stay there, never to be released. And so one of the things that I've learned on the journey is that improvement, doesn't happen when you don't start. So you actually have to release, let it go, come back. And every time, because this is a practice that I still do too, every time I do a show, every time I do an episode, I just look for one thing, no more than one thing that I'm going to improve upon. I don't beat myself up. I don't give myself a list of 10 things to critique. Just one thing I'm going to improve upon for the next episode. So thank you so much for sharing that, because I know a lot of our guests on here today are probably wondering, how can they start or where should they start? But the key is, like you said, is to just get it started. So I love it.
And another thing you said, Taria, is that as human beings, when we put someone on a pedestal, we feel we can many times, yes, we want to emulate them, but how am I going to get there? But perfection is the enemy of, just doing something well. So embrace your imperfection, as you said you do. And for me, I say a lot of ums, and I realize, well, that's just me. And people can relate to others when they feel the people that speaking to them are authentic, because then we don't feel like, oh, I have to match up to them. You see that, all right, they're just like me. They make mistakes. We all make mistakes. They don't get it right. But once you get over that and say, I don't need this to be perfect. I just need it to be authentic. I need people to come because they realize that I care, or I want to impact the world. I'm talking about something they're interested in, because really and truly, we listen to things or we view things that we're interested in. How many of you have gone to view something that is boring and have stayed 1 whole hour being bored? Not too many of us, But if you're interested in the subject matter, you stay, you listen, you follow. So people aren't perfect, so you won't be perfect either. But people will come because they know you're authentic.
Yeah. Oh, you said so much in those words, and that's what it is about, right? And so part of the journey is and I'll just go ahead and tag this on. If we all understand that we're not made for everyone, but we are made for some people, and the people who we are called to serve, the way that they find us is that we have to show up in all of our unique brilliance. And that's the only thing that we're really charged with, right? Is how do we put ourselves, our unique selves, our unique brilliance into the marketplace so our people that are destined to connect with us, that they can find us or they can be attracted to us. So I love it, love it, love it. And so that leads into the next question that I want to ask is, how do you actually identify and attract your ideal audience or podcast audience?
So it comes back again to being authentic, So for me, I know that I lived in many different countries. And so for me, I consider myself a global citizen. I also consider myself a woman. So when I was looking for, when I was looking for a particular audience, let's say in 2023, I wanted people to relate to me. So I would say to anyone, in order to attract your ideal podcast audience, think about the people that you want to talk to and you want to talk to in your authentic voice. Because as I said a few minutes ago, people tune into what they are interested in and the topics that interest them coming from someone sometimes who they feel relatable. So the best way to attract, if you are starting a podcast, to attract your audience is to be authentic and talk to the person or talk to the audience in the way that you feel you would like to be spoken with, because people do business with, we've been told, people who they like and who they respect and who they feel understand them. It's the same thing with a podcast. Your ideal audience will be attracted to you because they see that you're authentic. They see that the topic you're talking about is coming from your heart, and they will relate to that.
I love it. Okay, so what are some of the specific strategies, Paula, that you have implemented in your business to do that?
One of the things I did was leverage social media. My social media of choice, if you listen to any of my podcasts, my number one and my favorite social media platform is LinkedIn. I feel most comfortable there. I feel I come alive there. And so social media, I'm speaking to the social media expert. It's a way in which we can get people to hear about us, to know who we are. I would say start with the social media platform that you're comfortable with. So for me, it's been LinkedIn. And within LinkedIn, I used a tool called LinkedIn Sales Navigator.
Okay.
Oh, that's been a game changer for me, because with Sales Navigator, it's a paid product. I have to admit that when I was given the free version, I thought, let me just use this, and once the time is up, I'm off. But when I started using it, I saw the potential. I saw how powerful it is. And so LinkedIn Sales Navigator has given me a platform in which I can use the powerful filters to find the audience I'm looking for. You know, I'm looking for women. I'm looking for women over 35. I'm looking for women who have connection with Africa, with the Caribbean, with the African diaspora, with the diaspora, women who have been immigrants. I was able to use the tools in LinkedIn Sales Navigator to find my ideal audience, because they are looking for what I want to talk about. And they're looking to be on shows where they could talk and express their expertise, whether it's in their business or, you know, as a service provider.
Right.
And so LinkedIn has worked for me.
Yeah. You know, you're sharing something, because I used to do most of my social media episodes. My place to hang my hat was on Facebook. And so as I started this new format, I too started to take a look at LinkedIn, and I have to like concur, like LinkedIn and the power of what they're able to do with the searches for us to be able to, you know, hone in on who our target demographic is absolutely amazing. So I'm just going to say this. If you're out there and you are asking the questions, you know, who are my people? Where can I find my people? Paula just said it. LinkedIn, the Sales Navigator is it, because that's definitely the tool that I started using here as well for Social Media Saturdays. So thank you for that. I'm not, you know, we have to find out, Paula, if they have an affiliate.
You're right, because we're talking about that.
For LinkedIn Sales Navigator. I'm going to go ahead and look that up, because if we're going to be here plugging them, we need to know about that. So that's good. That's good. So what would you say for the person who is out there looking to build up their brand authority and their influence in the marketplace? How important is podcasting to that?
Oh, my word. So I mentioned to you all earlier that, you know, I had a small business doing web design and development, and so many people were doing that as well. But when I started doing podcasting, my world changed. And that was audio podcasting. My world changed. And now I was speaking with people who were talking about themselves, their businesses. People feel most comfortable talking about themselves, right? I mean, you know yourself, you know your business, you know your product, you know your services. So it's easy for people to talk about themselves. And through that, I developed relationships with people that I would never have had an opportunity to have met. I would never have met Toria if it wasn't that I was doing a podcast. I mean, web design and development is awesome, but if she wasn't looking for my work, she wouldn't find me. So in doing the podcast, my world opened because I was speaking to business owners from all over the world, literally, because it was national, it was local, it was regional. And that opened up an opportunity that I don't think I would have ever had. In fact, a good story was that my phone rang. And when I looked at the caller ID, it was somebody I'd been trying to get in contact with for about 6 months to work alongside me in doing search engine optimization. I could never get her, but she heard about my podcast and she called me.
Wow.
Now, did that impact my business? It sure did. There was a publisher in where I lived, and I wanted to get in touch with her. I had emailed her before and I didn't get any response. So I drove to her office, stayed outside until about 11 o'clock to give myself the courage. And I walked towards the door and the door opened and I was like, okay, I'm here to see. I'm not going to mention her name. And they said, yeah, hi, Paula. I'm like, you know me? I said, yeah, we listen to your podcast. I was able to meet with her, sit down with her, and she introduced me to more people for my business. Talk about influence. And I'm not saying that to build up my, to boast about me. No, because I told you I wasn't comfortable with public speaking, but it gave me the authority, gave me the credibility, gave me the visibility. Another person that later on, she and I do a podcast together. She's based in England. Her name is Tessie. I think she's on.
Yes.
She and I mean, she was a client of mine I showed her how to do podcasts. And she's like, would you like to do a podcast with me? And I said, sure. She said, co-host it with me. And now we have two podcasts that she's in England. Her guests are not guests that I would look for because those are not my target audience. But together we are able to, through her, she is the one who gets the guest. And then I come on alongside with her. I've met so many more people through her. So much so that now in 2025, we are going to do a collaborative venture together. It's going to be in Ghana. It's going to be for women, Black women in particular, who want to discover their roots. But there's leadership tied up with that. And it's going to be an 8-day event. I would never have had that opportunity if I hadn't started podcasting. It's given me visibility, credibility, business.
I love that, Paula, and it's really wonderful to hear, all of the wonderful connections, the support that you have gotten, through your business and the opportunity just building your brand in this way has afforded to you. As I'm sitting here, I'm listening to you, it reminded me of a conversation that I had with one of my clients this week. And this was a young lady when we started working together. The idea was for her, once again, to build up her authority in the marketplace by doing videos. And we got her on track, and she's been doing her video library now for 2 years. And can you just imagine, just this week, she called me and she said she had an opportunity to put in a RFP, a request for proposal, in a very big project. And one of the things that the company was, or the organization, I should say, was asking for was for her to be able to showcase not only what she does, but her speaking ability. And so we were able to refer them to her YouTube channel, where for the past, 2 years, she's just been doing her videos, right? And so I say all of that to say, so sometimes, we think of things like in the big picture, but it could also be those, and I don't want to minimize it, but those steps, those incremental steps along the way, that this is why it's important for everybody. And I use my words all the time. You have to show up. Okay. So whether you're doing video podcasting or whether you're doing audio podcasting, the point that we're trying to make here is that you do have something to offer and your voice matters and people want to hear from you and people are looking, for people who could also help them serve their communities as well. So I absolutely love that you shared that. Okay. And so I'm going to ask you now, let's kind of switch gears a little bit and get into a lot of the questions that people really want to know. They want to know the how. So what tools or what platforms would you recommend to someone who's just starting out on their podcasting journey?
This may surprise you, but I'm going to say start with your phone. Our smartphones are powerful these days. Our smartphone has, audio potential and, of course, video potential. Video potential is far-reaching now. And this is coming from someone who said, I don't know why they're going along the video route with podcasting, but you have to go with the trend. Yeah. So video podcasting is becoming a big trend now. I mean, most people, when they talk about podcasts, they think about the video more than the audio. So I'd say start small. As I said in the beginning, start small. Don't get overwhelmed. So start with your phone. Record a video with yourself if you are going to be a solo podcaster. And if you're not going to be a solo podcaster, use the Zoom like we are on now. Use Zoom and interview your clients with Zoom. So your phone, if you're going to be a solo podcaster, and if you're going to be an interviewer or a panelist, you still use Zoom. And I recommend Zoom because for the most part, Zoom is free. I know they're doing updates all the time. So the Pro may be a better option. It's about $20 a month where you can stay on over 40 minutes because I know the free version at what point would drop you off after 40 minutes. Use Zoom. Set up Zoom in a way that you have multiple tracks. And what do I mean? At the back end of Zoom, there's a setting so that when your audio would not just be a single track. So there's not just you, your voice merging with the voice of your guest if you're doing interview style, but it will be, you get depending on how many guests you're going to have. So if it's like you and one person, you get one audio track with just your voice and your guest voice, and then you get two separate tracks with your guest voice and with your voice. So you need to set that up so that if you want to extract the audio from the video, you have two clear-cut tracks that you can use. I'd say also learn how to do a little bit of editing, audio editing. There's a free tool called Audacity. It works on both Windows computers and it also works on Mac computers. If you're not comfortable with your phone, at least I can talk for the Mac computers. There is a tool called QuickTime. You can record with that. And it's even good for video editing. There's another tool that we are also familiar with. Use Canva. Canva has a video editing option that you can use for trimming your videos, for editing it. And another good tool is called Descript. Descript is great for transcribing because if you want to have an audio video, or even the video podcast these days, if you put it on YouTube, most people are looking for the transcript because we multitask these days, don't we? So you could be in public, you could be on the train, on a plane, and you're playing the video podcast, but you don't want to disturb people. So you can read the transcripts as you go along, or you can, as the podcaster, pull out the audio and make that an audio podcast. That's what I do. And even the Win-Win Women's TV network, what they do with our shows too, apart from broadcasting it, they pull out the audio and make it an audio podcast, which we can put up on iTunes, I'm saying iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and there's so many directories we can use. So I'd say start small, start with your phone. If you're a solo podcaster, use your phone. If you're going to do interview style or panel style, use Zoom. And with Zoom, you can set it up so that you can extract the audio and use the audio for the audio podcast, use the video, you can put it on YouTube. And YouTube recently started, I noticed that they have a podcast tab now. So you can extract that audio and have it just on the podcast version of YouTube. And of course, your videos on YouTube. And guess what what YouTube is? YouTube is a part of Google Suite. So Google, our search engine, will promote YouTube videos, which would be your videos that you've put on YouTube. And you have a lot of people having access to your video podcast and your audio podcast right there on YouTube.
Yep, I was just about to say, YouTube is the largest search engine, by the way. So if you didn't know that, but this is why I always have you on, Paula, because I always learn something new. Like every time I speak to you, I did not know that you could create separate tracks in Zoom pertaining to the guests. So guess who's going to set up their Zoom account after we get off to do exactly that. Thank you so much for that golden nugget. Now, I do want to be respectful of time. I know we're coming down to the bottom of the hour. So I want you to share any last minute thoughts or shares with our guest today. And for those of you who can spend a few more minutes, what I will do is open it up for the Ask the Expert session.
All right. So again, I say start small. That's been my mantra. Start small. Don't be overwhelmed with all the things, all the moving parts of podcasting. You'll get to it. Also, let curiosity drive you. Get familiar with the trends. What are the newest trends now? What are people interested in? YouTube has the shorts. So if you have your video, you can cut it up so that you can, or YouTube enables you to do shorts where it just takes a clip of your video podcast and puts it out there because people have short attention spans. I'm sorry to say, but that's the reality. When I say let curiosity drive you, again, what would you like to hear from someone? Let that be your passion. Let that be your starting point, as I said originally, so that people will engage with you because they can see that you are passionate about what you do. Right now, you can hear the passion in my voice because I speak with women from Africa, from the Caribbean, from the African diaspora, from the diaspora, who have a message that they want to share with the world. And I give them a platform for them to do that. And it has been amazing because I have gotten so much response. People want to be on the platform because they feel that this is authentic. This is a way that they can get seen, heard, and showcased by someone who looks like them, probably talks like them, has had similar experiences to them. Yeah. Start by reaching out to people that are interested in what you are interested in. It comes off authentic. It comes out real. People can relate to you. And that's what I end with. Let your curiosity drive you and be authentic because people know when you're real and when you're not real.
Wow. Oh, wow, Paula, this has been absolutely amazing. I would like to thank you, and thank you on behalf of the Social Media Saturdays community. What you have shared with us today has absolutely been golden, and I am looking forward to continuing our conversations together on how we could better serve.
Absolutely. And one thing that I have to say, Taria, you taught me is that to take your conversations offline. You were the first person who encouraged me to do that. And we did it by meeting and having dinner together. And recently I had a guest on my show and I was visiting my son in Philadelphia. And she said, I'm going to come and see you. Okay. And from that, I'm going to be doing a summit in which I can meet in person with some of my guests who have impacted not just my life, but the life of others, so that collectively we can continue that mission of empowering, inspiring, and educating women globally.
I love it. I love it.